Angel, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good.
Where are we talking to today? Is this your home office?
Yes.
So when you started it, what was your vision? What was your plan?
Well, I started it because I had been working with a local school through my previous job. And when they heard that I was leaving that job, they said, "Hey, we still want you to do our newsletter and our annual reports and all of that. Can you do that for us on the side?" And so they helped me get started, got loans so that I could uh, get my own equipment and all of that and work from home. And so they were my primary client for several years. And then it would just be word of mouth. If somebody needed something, then I would do work for them as well and all of that. So yeah, for like 7 years, I worked on the side freelancing. And then when I got married, I moved to a different state and decided to try kind of doing it on my own full time. And it's not necessarily a 40-hour week job, but that's one of the things I like about it.
Yeah, for sure. So when you started, if you knew that these years later you would be doing it essentially full time as your main job, would you believe that was possible? Would you believe that was something you could actually have attained in such a short amount of time?
I think so because, frankly, I have my husband to support me. So we're in a decent position where his job really takes care of us, and my job is sort of the extra, vacation money and all of that. So I think there was a time we thought we would have kids, and that would give me the flexibility to, since I was already at home. That didn't work out, but now I have a couple of cats.
Cats and board games replaced your time, I suppose.
Yes.
So a lot of people, well, that's unfair to say. I was about to say a lot of people got to know you from your board game alphabet. I certainly did, and there's always a lot of chat around that. Was that something that you thought was because it would be a great thing to design for, or because it was something you were interested? What made you? What was the inspiration to do that?
So when I started on Instagram, it was because I had opened up an online shop on Zazzle.com. And people said, "Hey, you need to be on Instagram," because prior to this, I was business to business in
Mm.
terms of who my clients were. And here I was going to business to consumer, B2C. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll join Instagram. But I was really hesitant because, it's just like another social media outlet kind of thing. And so when I started, I had a different name for my shop, which I won't, get into. And I didn't know what to post about. I was trying to post at least once a week. And I think it was the spring of, I guess it was spring of last year, that I was following some typography hashtags. And I saw somebody doing an alphabet based on Disney characters.
Mm.
And I thought it was fantastic. And I had this sudden thought of like, oh, I had a board game design shirt and I love board games. I have all my life. And it's like, I could make an alphabet out of, board game components, and that would be a weekly feature content. So it was really about getting some regular content.
Okay.
And I started with the idea of just doing my favorite games through the alphabet. About several letters in, I started, getting some attention from more board game people, and then I had this, light bulb moment of, wait a minute, I could actually turn this into something that makes money, which is, always the goal, right? To, monetize what you're doing. And so I went ahead and continued through the alphabet doing my favorites, or at least games that I knew of. And then when I was done, I thought, okay, if I want to make this more marketable, I maybe need some more popular games.
Mm.
And so that's when I actually went to my followers and said, okay, what different game might you like for this letter, and had people voting and all of that. And so kind of curated the alphabet and put it together. And so that whole process was about a year.
Wow. So now you've got these alphabets of letters made up by board game components and tiles and things, and people can go onto your website and buy words of their children or family name or whatever they want spelled out with the board game letters, right? Has that how has that been? What sort of weird things have you had ask people spell out for you on using these letters?
Nothing weird so far. I had one of my, uh, a follower that I always appreciate their support reached out and said, "Hey, I want to get mugs for my spouse and I, and we want our names on them." And so that was like in the first week of me promoting the launch of the alphabet.
Wow.
And that was awesome because it was a custom order and it was their names and it worked out really well. And so that was exciting. But it's just not gotten as much attention as I thought it might, frankly.
I mean, I just assumed it would have been like one of your biggest sellers because it's just so cool. Like the design is so bright and vibrant, and it's just so flexible with just so many different things that you can do with that because you just basically created a whole typography, right?
Yeah.
Font.
And yeah, my inspiration in some regards was, have you ever seen the black and white photography of things out in the world that look like letters?
Yeah.
And so that was the inspiration of how to approach it. And I really thought, you get people saying, "Oh, I want my name," or whatever. And I think just part of it was it launched right as the pandemic hit. And so you got a lot of people who sort of stopped buying for a while.
Yeah, sure. Sort of frivolous things, I guess, are out the window for everyone for a while. So what things on your website are the most popular? What things do people come to you most with?
In some ways, one of my designs that's most popular is one I don't actively promote, and that's in part because I'm trying to focus on general games, because with Zazzle, there's a lot of concern about copyright infringement. They're a lot more strict than if I was just doing something on my own. So, my goal is to not zero in on any one particular game, but to try and group things. And so Live, Love, Play, it's got some of the elements that people like about gaming, but it's not specific to one game. And with the alphabet, because I'm always doing a group of letters, it's never zeroing in on one particular game. And board game, gal, guy, kid, family, those have gotten some attention. It's hard to say what is exactly, the most popular thing, because it's like everybody gets a little bit of everything. And then I have the new Anytime Maple. So I've got designs that I need to get finished and get up, and just challenge of trying to work on Instagram content and my freelance business, and then also coming up with new actual merchandise.
So you mentioned the Live, Love, Play thing there. Where did that phrase come from? Because I've seen that on a lot of your products on the website. What's that phrase mean to you? Where does it come from?
So I've seen the Live, Love, Play in many different environments, sports and all of that. So it's a common group of words that people put out there, and I just put the sort of gaming spin onto it. So Live, the I is actually modeled after the Sorry token, because that was one of the first games that I played when I was a kid.
Okay.
And then Love is is a bit matte heart to kind of symbolize video games. And then Play, the A is the meeple.
I love it. When I saw the I in Live, I thought that was from Cluedo, what you guys call Clue.
Oh yes.
That was my guess. I was gonna try and go through and guess. I thought that was Clue. I thought the heart was from Zelda. And the meeple looks very Carcassonne-y to me, but
well, meeple it started as Carcassonne, but it's grown beyond that. So thankfully, the meeple doesn't seem to be trademarked in any fashion.
Well, you couldn't, right? I mean, it's everyone owns the meeple, I think. Yes. So, what's the vision for the business? What would you like to do with it over the next sort of two years? What's your short-term goals with it?
Sell merchandise. I mean, frankly, that's really just what it is about, is getting more people to buy. I think this Christmas season will be, kind of a test a little bit. There's so much out there, it's really hard to stand out. And so my hope is that with the pandemic, hesitation to buy, that people would still be thinking about Christmas and holidays, and get some sales and support there. Frankly, it's a little bit on the edge here in terms of viability. I spend a lot of time on Instagram because I love it, but it's hard to justify the time without the income.
Yeah, sure. I hear that. I mean, looking on your website that I've done many times, I always think to myself, whenever you're in that situation where you're trying to buy a gift for somebody and you're like, I don't know what to buy this person, if they're into games, I feel like your website has the answer for any age, any demographic, any gender, any scenario. So that seems to be sort of the best place for me, for where you can find more people to come to your website, because it just answers and ticks so many boxes. Like if any of my friends and family, for example, are watching this and you don't know what to do on my birthday next, just go to this website. Because people always ask me, like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know, I'm 40. I don't like what do you need? I don't need anything. You know, what do you
Yeah.
want? Some board game stuff? You know, and I feel like that's what your website answers. But you're right, it's hard to cut through and get out there. How do you do that? Like your Instagram is really great, really vibrant. You've got a really good theme to it. What other ways can you reach out to the board game community and people who would definitely be interested in your products if they knew them?
That's where I struggle because I don't know what the answer is. When I started, I looked at what other people were doing, and I found myself sort of turned off by the sellers who were only selling. Um, it's like I don't want to be the person who every day is just trying to sell you something. And so I took on the persona of Board Game Angel, and found different things that kind of fit my personality and my interests. With I love the game Dixit, so Dixit Thursdays became a thing. I'm focusing on Seven Wonders on Wednesdays. So I was like, okay, I knew at some point that I did need to sell, because if you don't know that I sell, how can you ever buy? And so I established Angel Merch Mondays. So it's kind of like I will take, one post a week to really sell myself. And the rest of the time, I just want you to come and enjoy my content. Because in some ways, that's been the revelation and joy of Instagram for me. Because, like I said, I have an English degree. I loved writing when I was a kid. I've always been interested in photography and then games. And it was like all of these things came together in one environment, and it's been a blast. I love the interaction, the people that I've met, and if I wasn't concerned about also having some kind of income coming in, I'd be happy just to have fun on Instagram.
Yeah, it's a great place. And you mentioned the Dixit thing. You do your reverse Dixit thing every week, and I feel like this is a good opportunity for me to make a public and formal apology for ruining one of those weeks when I confused. What was it? I thought you were doing A Christmas Carol when you were actually doing Oliver Twist or something like that.
Something like that.
And I got like the right answer, but I was on completely the wrong track. And then somebody else was saying, how did you get this? And I was explaining it because I thought this meant that. And you were like, hang on a minute, you're talking about completely the wrong thing.
I love that kind of stuff.
Oh,
it makes it fun. It's like today. So the three pictures all had these domed images, and I thought, okay, it's a bell jar. Well, I was thinking of Sylvia Plath because of my English background. I knew that she had a book called The Bell Jar, and I was thinking of cloche and dome and all of that. So I put it out there, and Small Fry Games, who's one of my favorite buddies, just instantly got it, and like that's great. I love that she got it, and it's always exciting when somebody gets it right away, but it sort of kills the momentum.
Because I always find it, maybe I look at the time and it sort of says Board Game Angel posted this 46 minutes ago. I'm always sort of within the hour, and I saw it and I was like, okay, cool. I think today I was about 32 minutes or something. So I scrolled down to just double check no one's got it yet, because surely they haven't. And then boom, there it was, the trophy. I was like, oh man, I didn't even get a chance to guess. But I like the fact that you then do the silly guesses, the funny guesses, best worst guess, to give latecomers or idiots who get Christmas Carol mixed with Oliver Twist a chance to have a go. It's such a cool thing. But I've got to ask, where are you getting all these cards from? Do you just have every single expansion in the Dixit set or something? Because it just seems to be... I mean, there are a lot of cards, but it's just horrendous.
So reverse Dixit, how this came to be is, like I said, I had a different name when I started on Instagram that went with my shop. And when I realized that took too much explanation, it was one of those too clever for its own good. And because I decided to focus on board games, in the launch to say, I'm changing my identity here, I curated some Dixit cards and said, okay, what's the clue here? Because in Dixit, you're usually, one person says a clue with a particular card and everybody else tries to put out a card that matches. And I knew I couldn't work it that way. So I was like, well, what if I reverse it? Instead of trying to pick the card, pick the clue.
Mm.
And so in the first, when I was using that to launch Board Game Angel, I curated the cards for a specific message. But I knew that wasn't sustainable. So I pull out my box every week and I randomly pull out 3 cards. And for whatever reason, I actually put them down right to left. So when I'm thinking, I'm always thinking, like the first thought is the right card, and then the middle card, and then the left card.
But hang on a minute. You pull them out randomly. You're not gathering 3 that have a theme. You get the 3 cards and then get something from it.
Yes, and then that's the challenge for me, is trying to come up with a clue that fits all 3 cards.
That's crazy.
So it's fun for me, but it's also sustainable because I just pull random cards as opposed to having to sift through and pick something.
It makes it a lot easier, but to do it, I guess. But I would then also suggest harder to then always come up with a clue that fits so good, because every single week they fit so good.
And if you read I do a follow-up on Fridays, and I always explain what my thought process was. And say, like, I pulled this card, and oftentimes, like, 2 cards go together. And then I have to figure out, how do I pull that 3rd card in? And I labor over this. Like, I usually take the pictures the day before, and I labor over this for, like, all day into the night. And sometimes I'm deciding at the last minute, okay, this will be the clue. Like, so for this week, I knew, dome was the first word that came to mind. And I thought, that's too basic. So then I considered Under the Dome, which was a Stephen King novel and a TV show. And I just wasn't quite feeling that. And then I was like, well, I think this is also called a cloche. What can I do with that? Well, I looked up cloche, and then I saw jar bell. I was like, oh, yeah, that was a book I remember. And so that's kind of how I came up with it this week.
That's cool.
And when Small Fries got it, then I was like, okay, what can I do to kind of stimulate some interest? So the other sort of crazy idea I had was a play on the term cloche. It's like cloche encounters of the third kind, which I thought nobody would get.
That would be hard.
There.
Yeah.
And Bordiax tried desperately to come up with the right answer for the new clue, and she was kind of hitting a wall, and it was like, I appreciate when people do put in some effort. So that's cool.
So I'm assuming that you've never met Small Fries, right?
Not in person, no. In fact, this is my first video chat with anybody from Instagram.
Okay. I mean, it's just so cool, the Instagram community, that, like, we refer to these people, like, I know Small Fries, you know Small Fries, we refer to them like they're our mates, but you've never met her, I've never met her, and it's just such an amazing thing that brings people in. It does literally the opposite of all other social media. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean, so Small Fries, which it's easier for me to refer to handles simply because that's how people know them. But she was one of my first, engagement people with, I think, the alphabet. And we started chatting, and we've become great friends, even though we've never met. And then another person that came along that I really bonded with was Curiously Books and Games.
Yeah.
And there are people, like, one's in the UK and one's on the West Coast, and here I am on the East Coast. And, we keep talking about, like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome to get together? Well, our current setting is not going to happen. But I have met people that I met through Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
So there are some local people, 2 board gamers. They're about 45 minutes away from me, and we got together and played games. And Cindy Pastorius and her husband Cole Cakes, they joined up. And then there's one other person. She's not really big on the games, but we've met 3 times with different people there. And then Jaybird Word, get that mixed up. He's in Maryland. He moved here in the last year. But because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to get together. And Lauren plays games. She's like an hour away.
Oh, cool.
And we keep saying, like, oh, we totally have to get together. But I'm just not ready to get together with anybody in person.
No, of course. We're not there yet. But it's like Instagram replaces that, doesn't it? And it gives us the opportunity to bond as, fellow board game enthusiasts. I absolutely love it. So last question, if anyone's watching this and they're sitting there thinking, I like Angel's style, I like her artwork, I like her work, other than just sort of coming onto your website to buy stuff, you do work for freelance for other people, right? What what would you say to them? What's the best way for them to reach out and get in touch and start a conversation with you about that sort of thing?
So Instagram is, if you're seeing me on Instagram, definitely just, you can either, private message me, or you can email me. My email, business email is in there. If you're seeing this brand new, then, you're going to provide a link to, I think, my Instagram and my shop. So really just, Instagram will get you where you need to go, because my link on there takes you to my primary website. And, those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Cool. Well, I would encourage anybody who is watching and thinking to give it a try. I think what you provide is really fresh and vibrant. You've clearly got a passion for what you do. You're doing what you do because you enjoy it. And I think it shines through in all of your work and all of your content. Angel, it's been an absolute joy to talk to you and meet you in person properly. Hopefully one day we can do it in real life too. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for reaching out and giving me the opportunity. I appreciate your interactions on Instagram and what you're doing as well.